Good evening everybody, welcome to the Eastleigh Town Council full council meeting on the 24th of September. My name is Councillor Gaz Richardson, I'm the chair of the council. I'd like to extend a special warm welcome to Councillor Gibbs, who's attending his first council meeting since being co-opted onto the council in July. So before we begin, I'd just like to remind everyone this meeting is being recorded in accordance with the council's recording of meetings policy. A recording of the meeting will be uploaded to the council's website in due course. If any member of the public does not wish to be filmed, please let us know and we'll direct you to an area not covered by the camera. We allocate 20 minutes at the start for public participation with up to 5 minutes per speaker. Items not on the agenda cannot be debated today, but the chair or clerk may provide a brief response, follow up in writing or discuss at a later date. Respectful conduct is expected at all times. Disruptive behaviour will not be tolerated and the chair may intervene or ask individuals to leave the meeting to maintain order. Councillors, by attending this meeting tonight, you've decided that you abide by Section 25 of the Localism Act 2011 and are attending this meeting with open minds to hear and participate in the debates for motions brought. You agree to cast your votes in a reasoned and considered manner. Should any councillor therefore believe they are unable to do so or would wish to ensure transparency of commitments to other bodies, I would recommend that they declare them when invited to do so. First item on the agenda then, apologies for absence to receive and resolve to approve. Apologies for absence. Who have you got this evening?
Unfortunately, we have a list, Chair. We have Councillor Barrett for holiday, Councillor Constable for work, Councillor Park for work, Councillor Phillips for work, Councillor Harajan for work, Councillor Irish is on holiday, Councillor Spencer is at work and Councillor Shepherd is at work.
Thank you. Are we happy to approve those? Is there a proposer to approve those? Councillor O'Neill, a seconder. Councillor Johnson, all those in favour of approving? That's everybody, thank you. Register of interest and dispensation to receive any declarations of interest or dispensation regarding any items on the agenda. Any to declare? Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, 31, 25, 3 and 39, 25, 4, which is receive a committee meeting and motions for councillors.
Is that on because you're an allotment holder?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Councillor Campbell?
Also an allotment holder.
Thank you. Can I check with the clerk, is it advisable that they just sit out that part of the meeting, or as we're discussing pricing of allotments?
Yes.
I think it's probably wise you don't contribute to that meeting, just so that, you know, there's no blurred lines. Are you happy with that? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any others? No. Next item, minutes of the last meeting. To receive and approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of July 2025. Those were sent out in advance. Any questions on them? Anyone happy to propose them? Councillor Bicknell, a seconder. Councillor O'Neill, all those in favour of approving those minutes? That's everybody, thank you. Of course I don't have a pen, thank you. Thank you. Next item, public participation. The meeting will be adjourned for a maximum of 20 minutes, 5 minutes per speaker, to allow members of the public to make representations, answer questions and give evidence in respect of business on the agenda. Good evening.
Evening. So, Chair, Councillors, Officers. So the first one is just about public participation, how we can try and encourage it to all of our council meetings. One of the things, come here to look at the agenda and stuff like that, is there's all things like the allotments on here tonight, but actually there's no details available as a member of the public to see, what are those prices going to be, what's the policy going to be. I can't see it, so actually I'm quite restrained about, can I even come and comment on it, because actually I don't know what you're going to be discussing, in advance. And obviously, as a member of the public, we have to speak in advance of any councillors' debate on anything like that. So obviously the first part there, like that there. Secondly, just on the allotment side of things like that, again, I am an allotment holder like that. Obviously, I have also got another hat, if anyone's not aware, currently chair of White Parish Council. Again, we've been through a similar type thing with our allotments and things up there. We took a decision right from the start to actually not have a concession policy. It's worked okay. We had a little bit of upset at first, but actually everyone has still continued to pay like that, and it's around how you get that message over and the value for money, and actually can you get an alternative for anything else? And if all these allotments are all making profits, I can understand concession rates being there. Actually, if they're not making money, then that is why. Otherwise, in effect, you're taking money from other taxpayers to subsidise someone's allotment, which for me, I don't feel that's totally fair. So just a member of the public saying that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll be debating your second point. That's part of the meeting tonight. Do you want to respond on the first one?
Yes, you raised that point previously, and we listened to you. And this meeting on the website, there is something called a council meeting book, and all the papers that are public-facing papers are available and that's what's actually on the screen at the moment.
I thought we'd started publishing them, so yeah, I think they are starting to appear on there, so you should see them.
I'm not going to pretend that is a long-standing thing. No. It's on its third meeting now, that meeting book
I just thought just one page
has been, you scroll down it, all the papers there, all the detail about the allotment policies are there, and the financial figures that will be reviewed this evening as well.
Thank you. Are there any members' questions? Councillor O'Neill.
Speaking as a person from the public.
Yes, that's fine.
Number 61 bus. It's previously been on the agenda. I notice it isn't anymore. Is it going to be debated at any stage in either under Hampshire County Council updates or anything else?
I have no further details on the 61 bus. I don't know if the clerk has got anything.
Yes. I was under the understanding that an update had been provided that the number 61 bus has actually been removed by Stagecoach. They refused any payment of any subsidy for the gap. There was quite a lot of action taken to try and see if parish councils or anybody would provide the 60-something thousand pounds a year of subsidy. That offer was made to Stagecoach, and they said that they did not wish to continue the service, and therefore there was absolutely nothing that could be done.
Can I ask that, at least if not using the word 61, public transport appears on future agendas? Because I think it's an important issue. I was at Albrook Council, I was at Wood Council meeting last week. Too many councils. And I understand that you had a meeting with Marcia and with the clerk of Chandler's Ford. I'm sorry, I do not know the name of, discussing buses.
That is correct. So myself and the officers of Chandler's Ford and Wood met in relation to a meeting that was brought to us by two of the Hampshire County councillors who are supporting Route 44, I think it is, and I apologise if that's the wrong one. It's the bus that comes from Chandler's Ford into Eastleigh and back again. There is a fund, and it was actually publicised this week, a government fund. The Hampshire County Council have been provided with a grant of, I think it's around £300,000, that will permit new or adaptations to existing services to be proposed. So it was an action that the three clerks took to see whether or not there was a requirement and a need to actually to look at the Route 44 bus and whether or not that would be able to compensate for the loss of the Route 61. So to change its route slightly and mean that it comes into Eastleigh, across Woodside Avenue, down Twyford Road, and then back out down Lee Road. That was a pre-meeting prior to actually the launch of this fund. The fund, when it was originally informed, was considerably larger than £300,000, and therefore we have a further meeting next week as officers to see what funding can be done with it. Obviously that would have come back to council, but at the moment, apart from the three of us sitting in a room talking about what could be done, there was really nothing else to update you on.
No, I appreciate that. I understand that for a lot of people, buses are not really a very important part of their lives, but for many, they are extremely important. And when I used to get the bus, which I can't anymore because it stopped, people were constantly asking me about buses, and they still ask me, what's something about the bus, Cathy? What's something about the bus, Cathy? So I'm a little surprised that never mind the number 61, that the bus service is not on the agenda. So I'd like to ask that it goes on next month's agenda, please.
We can certainly put that on if you can give the clerk some ideas of the sort of things you want to discuss, so that we can word the agenda
Well,
correctly.
there's things like meetings. I was at Albrook Parish Council yesterday, and we would circulated a letter from the chair of Cornwall Common, who'd written to Hampshire County Council about bus service in general, and a very, very good letter about, you know, the government's trying to encourage cars off the road. Hampshire County Council seems to be encouraging cars on the road. You know, the lack of being able to get out of their houses, and I think that get the impression that Eastleigh Town Council has now just sort of dropped the ball on it because it's gone and that's it, you know. And I don't want it to be gone. I want people to be asking, what are we going to do about it? And my people I represent want to know that as well.
Quite happy to put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
And future meetings until it's resolved. Thank you very much.
Councillor Bicknell.
Thank you, Chair. It's a shame that Councillor Irish isn't here because being a county councillor, we'd be able to answer the questions with reference to the buses, because that's also one of his specialities, buses. Chelmsford Parish Council have been subsidising Route 44 for a while now. I'm not going to give figures because I can't remember. And that's actually a minibus, which I believe may have been provided by
Community
First. What the condition, the state of that is now, I don't know. But as I say, Councillor Irish was quite instrumental with Chelmsford Parish Council, or other Chelmsford Parish councillors, in actually maintaining that bus through from Chelmsford down to Eastleigh. But I don't know what the state of affairs are now. Buses, yeah, you can have whatever bus service you want if you're prepared to pay for it, and that's the bottom line. Because someone's got to pay for it if it's not commercially viable.
Thank you.
I don't have the figures now because I haven't got the letter in front of me. The letter from the chair of Cornwall Common gave some figures and figures. It was £70,000 a year from tickets on the 61 bus service. And I think a meeting here in the past tenure, I think, said that it was subsidised by 50p a journey, which was the cheapest bus service around, and the others are £3 to £4. So to cut the funding for a bus service that's operated by a lot of people, anyway, that's not. It's going to be on the agenda for future meetings, so I'd like to see some sort of political will, political with a small p, political will to move this thing forward and get some sort of adequate bus service. Not least to the Winchester Hospital, which now there is no bus service between Eastleigh and Winchester, which is a disgrace and should be something of interest to all of us. Never mind the villages that it passes through, or did pass through. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Bicknell.
Just to add, Chair, Councillor O'Neill, absolutely right. Councillor Park did provide some figures, and actually Route 61 sort of price per mile per passenger was actually one of the lowest.
Exactly. And it's gone.
Yeah.
And I think it's something we should be campaigning for as a town council.
Okay, we'll certainly put it on the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments at this point before we move on to the next item? No? Okay. Next one is Chair comments to receive an update from the Chair on matters relating to the Town Council activities. So since our last meeting, I managed to enjoy a bit of rare downtime over the summer. It was good to take a holiday actually and spend some much needed time with my family, and I hope you all had the chance to enjoy a bit of summer as well. Back in August we welcomed our new Asset and Open Spaces Officer, Tim, who's with us this evening. And that completes the senior leadership team we need in place as we look to grow and expand the work of the Council. Although I couldn't attend Eastleigh Pride this year due to work, I was pleased to see that it was another great event. I'm glad the Council was able to make a financial contribution to support it. And from what I've seen and heard, it looked like a fantastic day. We actually got a, where's it gone? Certificate, because we were one of the headline sponsors, so something to go up on the wall in the office. September has certainly started in earnest and meetings are back in full swing. So recently I met with Eastleigh Borough Council and Boyett Wood Parish Council to discuss the community governance review, and there's a short update on that later in this meeting. I recently visited AFC Stoneham as well with our community engagement officer to better understand the concerns they're facing with speeding traffic along Stoneham Lane, particularly where people have to cross from the overflow car park to get to the centre. We had a good conversation with them, and we'll be engaging with Hampshire County Council to press for action and see what can be done. A parent of the club's actually set up a petition in order to try and force HCC to take some action on that road. I'll email a link out to the petition afterwards to you all, and I'd encourage you to sign that. Thanks to a grant from Eastleigh Town Council Neighbourhood Watch in Eastleigh, we were able to get some flyers printed, and I was out delivering a few of them last week, as was Councillor Gibbs. This set up 3 separate meetings to try and entice residents to set up some schemes within our area, and I'll be attending one of those next week to encourage people to do it. Next week I'll also be taking part in the 3rd day of judging the allotment plots for our allotment competition, and having heard what Councillor Clifton and Councillor Marks have said about their judging days, I'm really looking forward to it. In November we will mark, as always, Remembrance Day, and as we won't meet again as a full council before then, I just want to let you know that I'll be there representing the council at the events. It's always an important moment in the civic calendar, and I know many of you will also be attending in your own capacities. While I've got you, I'll make another quick plea for volunteers to help during the Christmas light event on the 15th of November. Even if you can spare just an hour or so, one of our volunteers can take a break, so it'll really make a big difference. So please let our community engagement officer know if you can help. Before I finish, I want to give a special mention to our greening project officer, Ellie, who's doing some really fantastic work in the community at the moment. She's been building up a strong group of core volunteers who've been putting in a lot of time and effort into the project, from improving their allotment sites to helping with, this week they did the big river watch, they've been helping create wildlife areas with the local cubs, and they were even handing out tick removal devices at Parkrun recently. I'd really encourage everyone to follow the Eastleigh Town Greening Campaign Facebook page if you don't already, to see the latest updates and opportunities to get involved. They're getting quite a lot of hits on it now. It's really engaging and great to see some of the work that they're out there doing. So yeah, please give it a follow if you don't already. Thank you. Councillor Bicknell?
Thank you, Jack. Am I entitled to ask a question or pass on
Yes.
to anyone? Going back to the crossing at Stanley,
Yes.
the football hub, should any officers or yourself want background information regarding that, then I've been involved in that from pre-construction. I'm a trustee for the Eastleigh and Southampton Football Trust, which runs oversees the running of it. It's actually run by the trust and not AFC Stoneham. I have actually met with the resident who is doing the petition and spoken to her. I'm aware of the history and actually have proposed some solutions to be taken with Hampshire County Council. So I'm well versed with that, and was actually involved with actually getting the current crossing that's in place to what it is now, which is better than what it was before. So as I say, should officers and yourself want background information on that, then I'm happy to discuss, and actually the correct people to actually speak to at the site, which would actually be the Hampshire FA, who actually run the site.
I think that was who we met, wasn't it?
Spoke to Pete.
Yeah,
Pete today.
yeah, Pete Hussey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Just for clarity, Pete Hussey is Hampshire FA,
Yeah.
not AFC Stoneham. AFC Stoneham are a partner organisation
Yeah.
on the site and do not run the site. And I think that we just need to be clear as to actually who runs the site on that. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably be in touch then. Thank you, Councillor Bicknell.
The offer's there if anyone wants the information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda then, Hampshire County Council Borough Council update. So the first one's to receive an update from the Hampshire County Councillors on matters related to the Town Council. Unfortunately, both of them have sent apologies this evening. I don't know if anyone else have heard anything from Hampshire County Council that might be worth saying. Councillor Bicknell, do you have something?
Okay, so Hampshire County Council I see we've got local government organisation on the agenda, but and it does affect this council. So Hampshire County Council have proposed 3 mega councils for their unitary authorities, which are far exceed the government guidelines of 500,000. I'm not going to go into all the details, but it would put us with these with Southampton, New Forest, and Test Valley, 700,000 people. Hampshire County Council voted in favour of it, no surprise there. Yeah, And their proposal is 3 unitary authorities for the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. Yeah, I'm not going to go into potential reasons as to why Hampshire want that. So there are a couple of things that are sort of joint Hampshire and Eastleigh Borough Council. So for those of you that are aware, at Market Street and Lee Road, there's the new cycle lane that runs from the station and then sort of weaves its way around the back streets and such like. And actually it crosses Market Street where cyclists have the right of way, because the give way is for vehicles into Market Street and not cyclists. Needless to say, there have been a number of near misses, and I think last week I was notified that Hampshire are looking to do some work to modify that to actually potentially make it safe. How not to implement things. And that follows neatly on to Hampshire County Council's local traffic plan. Might be number 4, I'm not sure. I don't know whether the Town Council have seen signs of that, but Eastleigh Borough Council and Borough Councillors have. Eastleigh Town Council, I would have thought, should have done.
I don't think we have.
It's quite a weighty document, and it is Hampshire County Council's local traffic plan that covers the whole of Eastleigh, of which a large chunk obviously is the Town Council. It is an interesting read, because I do wonder whoever did it actually knows anything about Eastleigh at all. And I have fed back, and I've said words of that effect. So some highlights in it, and probably the biggest one, is Hampshire County Council have now finally decided, after all this time, that they're no longer going to support the Chickenham Lane Link Road. However, what they have failed in their deliberations to take into account is the navigation quarter. Because obviously the navigation quarter actually gets the link road pretty much all the way round, so the only thing you've actually got to do is get underneath the railway at Botley, on which there is already a level bridge, and you're into Chickenham Lane itself, and that would provide you with a route to Chickenham Lane Link Road. And those that are involved in the airport know that the land was actually put there, and the runway was actually built to actually facilitate the road shielded on the northern end of the runway, and that. So that's interesting, because a lot of their other proposals fail to take into account the bottleneck that is Bishopstoke Bridge and the 24th Road roundabout, which actually wouldn't be a bottleneck if they had the Chickenham Lane Link Road. And the figures they're quoting as to the Chickenham Lane Link Road being unviable are absolutely ridiculous, because to actually to actually put it in would be nowhere near those prices. So further proof that the officers that did this really don't understand Eastleigh, as I mentioned about ignoring the bottlenecks at Bishopstoke Bridge and Twyford Road, where they've incidentally forced the Marks and Spencers to be built back from the road so they can do a land grab to improve the roundabout. They've decided that they want to put in a new cycle lane, and they actually want to do it along Southampton Road, from the railway station all the way down to Parkway. A wonderful idea, and truly, I say that actually because that is probably the best place to put in a cycle lane. That was the argument everyone was actually using when they put the cycle lane from the railway station across Lee Road, down through the precinct, and then down Desborough Road, shut one end of Desborough Road, mucked up Arnold Road, and stuck it down to South Street. And in their actual plans, they have completely missed that cycle lane that they've actually put in. It's not there. They've still got their bus lane from nowhere to nowhere. From nowhere is obviously the junction at Bishopstoke, what's the road that goes up the hill by the river, which then grinds massively to a halt as soon as it hits the Esso garage at Chickenham Lane. So that's still there. And of course the Chickenham Lane Link Road would mean the bus lane would actually go from somewhere to somewhere and save them some time. And actually one surprise is they're proposing a new footbridge over Archers Road, which is actually welcome. And that is a real surprise, because Hampshire's policy has always been not to redo that footbridge, which would actually make sense, because it actually connects more of the east and north, if you're talking on EBC borough wards, into the town, than what Hampshire's proposal always was, and I think still could be, which is a bolt-on footbridge at Twyford Road, which would then actually connect with road improvements on the Twyford Road roundabout, where Marks and Spencer's was set back from the road to allow for a land grab. So the whole thing is quite a bit of a mix-mash, yeah, it's interesting reading on that. So that's you know, the borough council have got that. I'm surprised that.
Can I just check? I presume we've not had that.
We'll get it.
We'll get that and
It
send
has
that
been
out.
kicking around for a couple of weeks now.
Okay.
Have you had it?
So that's what I sort of gleaned from Hampshire, even though I'm not a Hampshire councillor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bicknell. Are there any questions on Hampshire bit, Councillor O'Neill?
I was interested to hear about the Arches Road Bridge. Ted White, I think, said that 50 years ago it was mentioned about the bridge being done, which I don't think it's ever going to happen.
It's an interesting site because one of the reasons why they've always, well, that's why I said the whole thing's a bit of a mishmash on that. They were just the highlights I took out of it and points that I've actually replied to. Because actually, if they're going to put in a footbridge, ideally they want to be putting one in that's full DDA compliant. And one of the arguments has always been the fact, because of the railway and who actually owns the land, you haven't got the angles and the width and the lengths to be able to put in a full DDA compliant bridge. Because that's one thing we've always argued for, is that would be the best place to actually connect, you know, people north of the railway line, rather than dragging them down Twyford Road, even though we've got problems. But yeah, whether it will happen is another matter.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
I would just say thank you to Councillor Bicknell for his
Thank you.
It's pity that the other representatives didn't send any information to us.
Councillor Murray?
Sorry, Councillor Bicknell. Basically, with regards to navigation quarter,
Yes.
because I've read the report that you were talking about, because I think you did make comment with regards to EBC not being a contributor, or being a contributor, but not agreeing with the report, if I'm correct.
No, the report, if you talk about the report I just talked about, the LPT4, that it is actually up for consultation and for EBC to reply. They haven't replied yet.
Can I just come on with regards to, they did talk about the chicken oil, and they said it costs £200 million, and that's in that report. And basically, that's the reason why they wouldn't go forward with it.
Yeah, but that's on a previous route, not the route that can be done now.
Well, whether that can be done now or not for a cost, we don't know what the cost of that with regards to the navigation quarter, because they're going to via the north end of the runway, which you know was extended. And I think if you look at all the reports from the railway, the water company, and all of those utilities with regards to what is laying on that piece of land, they are all asking for more information with regards to that. So I know you brought the navigation quarter up with regards to the report that you were talking about with transport, but unfortunately it's not as yet been agreed by anyone, because it's not come in front of ELAC as yet, has it?
No, not yet, but was it environmental impact assessments are being carried out at the moment? I think there was a document on that. But indicative plans, the only access into the navigation quarter is via north of the runway.
No, it's not actually, because if I went round there and had a look and took some photographs of it all, and if you go down to the south part, if you come in from George Curl Way, yes, come through there and you turn right and you go down the edge of the runway there and then run adjacent to the M27 and then come up through, because there's a pathway already, because it used to be a road that actually maintained the radar that's there, or was there. And so therefore it's not the only way to come in to facilitate the navigation quarter.
Whether or not the airport would allow a road to run parallel with a runway like that, I don't know. And that could be why they're going in north.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that basically it's allowing a road that's going to be closer to a community than rather go to the other end of the runway, the southern end, and there is plenty of space there for that road to run adjacent to the M27 to come up through.
I can only go by the plans, the indicative plans that have been seen, and at the moment it's north of the runway, and it was north of the runway. It was actually designed to allow a road to go through there, not south of the runway. And whether there's restrictions on the airport and the operations, I do not know.
Well, we're probably not going to solve it tonight,
That's fine.
so we'll move on. To receive an update from Borough Councillors on matter relating to the Town Council. Unfortunately, Councillor Bicknell, you're the only Borough Councillor here as well.
So, I mean, those things were transferred with joints. So the Monksbrook play area down by on the lakeside estate joins the lakeside railway there. That is now fully complete and in use, and been very well received by the residents. I've got a couple of emails from people saying that they really do and it's really good, despite the fact that it took a bit longer than we actually wanted. Okay, and the only other things that I can think of that are relevant to the Town Council is obviously there is Cabinet tomorrow night, and one of the items on the Cabinet is to do with asset transfers, and two of those items that obviously affect us directly with reference to covenants, etc. So the Cabinet will decide on that tomorrow. And then the other thing after Cabinet is full council, where Eastleigh Council will discuss and put forward their recommendation or proposal for local government reorganisation. And on the Eastleigh Council side of things, because it's been the summer and I've been away, that's what I can think of.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bicknell. Councillor Campbell. Yes.
Councillor Bicknell, could you give us an update on the sort of Wayne Hemingway stuff and I can't remember what the fund's called, but
Together we make Eastleigh.
yeah, the fund though.
The SPF money, UK SPF.
Yes. Is there anything that we as residents are going to see actually happening as a result of, you know, what's sort of actually happening? Because it's all gone a bit quiet.
Not really much I can say on it because I'm not closely connected with it, so I don't know a huge amount about it. I haven't been able to attend any of the meetings. The actual money is government money. Usual thing from government money is seed funding. So basically it funds you to be able to talk about it and produce pretty pictures and documents, but it doesn't actually fund you to do anything. Usual government funding on these things. Actually, I think the best person or best people that are better connected with it than myself is actually going to be the chair and the town clerk, who I believe actually do go to the meetings and have far more detail than me on it.
I haven't been to the last one. In fact, but neither of us did we? We weren't able to attend.
No, I mean, in brief, the fund that the UK SPF fund has now been allocated out for all of the projects that they are planning to do. There's only two aspects of projects that are left over, which is a town centre regeneration guru consultant, basically, to come in and give a plan as to what could happen. Again, it is the seed funding, it's not actually to make the changes. Work that they're doing at the moment, which is to continue to develop the Together We Make Eastleigh brand, and they've commissioned two artists. One is a doodle artist and one is to decorate some of the areas around the town centre. It is in effect almost at the end of its project life cycle.
Okay, so no sort of discernible projects actually for the town centre to do anything, sort of to, you know, trial things or, you know, do road closures or do anything?
Not that there is any visibility on any of the project plans, no. The only thing that is an actual project that may see changes is the joint project with Hampshire County Council, which is the potential changes to Market Street and High Street to make them not pedestrianised but less car heavy, let's put it that way. But there are a lot of dependencies on there, and that is a Hampshire County Council highways project at the end of the day. That Together We Make Eastleigh has funded some of the promotions of that, and there's been events in the town centre showing the members of the public the maps and the amendments to that. I think that came to planning, did it? The maps on that,
Can't remember.
I believe.
Possibly can't remember.
Don't think they've been worked up yet. Nothing's come
But
to
there's
light.
lots of ideas
Oh,
that have
there's
been
lots of ideas.
floated around. I think the last we heard is they're still engaging with Hampshire County Council because most of the money to do that has got to come from Hampshire County Council. So they are still trying to tease money out of Hampshire County Council, but who knows, because this all started before LGR and all that, so I think it's still all up in the air, to be honest, Councillor Campbell. That's probably all we can say at the moment, unfortunately. Thank you. Any other questions for Councillor Bicknell? No? Okay, we'll move on. To receive an update on the local government reorganisation, we've sort of covered that. There were some slides put in the SharePoint pack, which was the last briefing that myself and the clerk and Councillor Marks actually attended on LGR. So Councillor Bicknell mentioned the Hampshire County Council proposal. The other councils, except for HCC, East Hants and Gosport, I think, they have all come up with these another set of proposals with 3 different ideas. That's what Councillor Bicknell alluded to is being discussed at their full council tomorrow night, with a recommended option for one of them that will put us with Southampton. I think tomorrow or the day after is the deadline when the ideas go up to government, and then we sit on our hands and wait and see what happens. That's pretty much, I think, all there is to say on that at the moment, isn't there? Unless I've missed anything, we wait and see, basically. Councillor Bicknell?
I think it's just one important thing for anyone who might actually listen to the video at some stage, that despite any proposal that will go to government, there is no public consultation, and if there is, the answer is yes. But at the end of the day, so people, public will not get to have a say on this. Government will decide, basically.
And they may choose one of the options that's being presented to them, or come up with something completely different.
Absolutely.
So we'll have to wait and see, I'm afraid, is the update. Any questions on that? No? Next item, to receive an update on the community governance reorganisation and the plan to merge the 2 parish councils. So, as you know, the second consultation went out recently. That was around the name of the council, the composition of wards and the number of councillors. That closed in August. The admin committee at EBC are meeting on the 10th of October, I think it was, to make a decision on that. That's pretty much all there is to say on that part of it. We do want to make actually a decision on a working group for that. Boyett Wood have nominated their chair, vice chair and clerk to be involved in a working group to help do a bit of the legwork and the background work. There'll be no decisions made by that group. They'll be bringing recommendations to each council, which council will get to vote on. But we'd like to propose that we do the same thing, so it would be myself, the vice chair, Councillor Clifton and the clerk, attending that working group to come up with our proposals about how the merger should happen and what needs to happen. And that's pretty much it on that, isn't it? So I will propose that as a resolution, that council are happy for myself, the vice chair and the clerk to go away and form that working group with Boyett Wood Parish Council. Is there a seconder for that proposal? Councillor O'Neill? All those in favour of that? That's everybody, thank you. Are there any questions on the CGR? No? We'll keep you updated, but you're more than welcome to attend the admin committee on the 10th of October, I think it is, to hear what they decide. But I think the papers will be out 10 days-ish before that meeting, so you'll be able to see what the officer recommendation is on that. Next item then, to receive committee minutes and motions from councillors. So the first one is to receive and note the minutes of the Asset and Open Spaces Committee meeting of the 10th of September 2025. So we are receiving and noting. That is noted. Next one, to note the rescheduling of the next Asset and Open Spaces Committee from the 8th to the 15th of October to provide time for asset transfer packs to be prepared post the EBC Council decision meeting on the 25th of September. So, as you may have seen in EBC's council papers, they are looking at potential asset transfers, and there's a first tranche of assets they would like to transfer across. and just giving the clerk and the officers that extra week to prepare all the papers, because we will need to make decisions at that 15th of October meeting under our delegated authority for those that we can decide on.
Excuse me, Chair.
Sorry.
I received clarification today on the list that is actually published for that meeting. That is not the list of assets that they are intending to transfer to us immediately. That is the list of assets that they have had valuations on, and they're asking their Cabinet and Council to agree that they can be transferred. There is a separate list that landed into my email today, and I will be sharing that out as soon as I've actually gone through and understood why some were purple and some were green and some were different colours, what that actually notates. There will be a pack of asset transfer packs to be prepared for the Asset Committee to make a decision on, however.
Yeah, and that's why we've just delayed that meeting ever so slightly, to give the officers chance to do that. Councillor Mark?
Sorry, Chair. Can I just ask, with regards to highway verges, is that going to be a unitary and they're going to keep it and not get transferred to the town or any parish council?
So it's a very good question. The answer is that the highway adopted verges is the top subsoil. The land title underneath them remains with whoever owns that land title. So currently Eastleigh Borough Council are the land owner, but any highways agency has the right to adopt an area, and then they take the responsibility for maintaining it. So where a lot of our land registry titles are complex, as in the area that's adopted as a highway verge is part of a larger land title, the intention is to transfer the entire land title so that the town council would be the landowner, but the highways would remain the adopted agency for it, so they would continue to maintain it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we've noted that change in that meeting day. The next one, where am I? I've lost my place. There we go. To receive for approval the proposed allotment pricing for April 2026 to March 2027 from the Asset on Open Spaces Committee. Is this the Deputy Clerk to introduce?
It is.
Thank you.
We go for now as the point of the two members that are...
As I was excited, I'll stay for this one.
You can stay, you just can't participate.
That's okay, that's fine.
That's fine.
That's
If you feel more comfortable sitting in the public area for this, feel free. Or if you're happy to sit on your hands there, that's
I'll sit
fine.
on my hand, don't worry.
Thank
It doesn't affect me in the long run, because I'm on site there.
Okay, so I've sent the paper out regarding the allotment pricing structure. So I gave you a bit of background that just says, in line with our tenancy agreement, when we have to alert the tenants the minimum notice, etc. So I have done some tables for you to outline our year-to-date expenditure with approximate cost per rod if they were charged directly to plot holders. It was pointed out to me today there was a few anomalies, and the level 4 that we had previously agreed at were actually now level 3, because at the last asset meeting the electricity has been agreed and resolved to be removed from the sites. So with that in mind, I have got the amended tables, but I will move it over to that once we're there.
Yeah.
So hopefully you've all seen this.
Yeah.
This is the spreadsheet showing the electricity, water, ground maintenance, equipment, salary, and our year-to-date totals and our projected totals, excluding electricity for the year. So
this line here is what, if we were to charge the full cost, that's what the price per rod for each site would be, so quite considerably more than we charge at the moment.
So with that said, we have 4 proposals. So the proposal 1 is subsidy reduces to 66.2%. So this is a recommendation that I brought to the Asset Committee first. And this basically is just to increase the rod cost in line with the previous years. The second proposal is to reduce the subsidy to 61.7%, although as these have changed, I think it might, because the levels for each site has changed slightly because of the electricity being moved. This actually is not quite correct on the subsidy amount. But basically the second proposal is to as per the Asset Committee recommendation of Councillor Constable, he proposed a £1 increase for level 1, £2 for level 2, £3 for level 3, and so on. Proposal 3, therefore, is the same as proposal 2, however, it's my recommendation to include a water charge, so a water surcharge. So we would increase the rods £1 for level 1 as per the previous, but there would be a £4 per rod water charge. And then finally, proposal 4 would be the same as the Asset Committee, but the water surcharge of £6 per rod. So these water surcharges are based on the figures for 2025-26 proposed costs for the year. So
it's, I've got it here. We spent, or we're projected to spend this year, 8,750 on water bills for the allotments.
and yeah, so
It's quite a lot.
okay, so I will now move to the amended figures for you.
Can you zoom that in a bit, Natasha?
Okay, so with what I've said in mind, so the Chestnut, Lakeside, Monksway and Woodside are now actually level 3 sites because they will no longer have electricity. So it has changed our figures slightly. So if we were to go for proposal 2, which, I'll start again. If we went for proposal 1, which is the proposal I suggested to Asset Committee, it would basically, our subsidy level, so the subsidy amount that the council precept pays for the allotments is currently, would be at 66.2%. If we went for proposal 2, which is as per Councillor Constable, that would decrease the subsidy to 61.1%. If we were to go for proposal 3, as per Councillor Constable, plus £4 per rod water charge, that would be £20 for a 5-rod plot. That would decrease our subsidy amount to 50.6%. And if we were to go for proposal 4, which is Councillor Constable plus £6 per rod water charge, this would be a £30 per for a 5-rod plot. That would decrease it to a 45.5% subsidy. So when I'm just saying about the subsidy, that means what the allotment's paying, the council precept, so the residents are paying at the moment 67.1%, I think it is. So with these different proposals, it brings it down to a minimum of 45.4%. So the council precept is still doing almost half of that. So the impact in amendments, so it's just detailing what has actually changed on this. So as a result of these changes, the net subsidy has decreased from 25,591 and 39 pence to 25,243 and 85 pence. So
That's the 4 to 3, isn't it?
yeah, so proposal 3 is then reduced. So originally proposal 3 on the document you received said it was a 51.3%. When it's actually been corrected to the correct levels, it is now 50.6%. Proposal 4 has decreased from £25,157.85 to £22,642.59. So proposal 4 was a bit more skew-ish than the other one. So this has actually lowered the subsidy rate from 50.4% to 45.4%. So it has this the updated amendments to the figures it's noted that Burton Tennyson actually was not the correct figure as per Councillor Constable's recommendation, so then all of it sort of went out. So there was a few errors and I do apologise for that.
You're only human.
Excel's not my strong point. I'm working on it. So therefore it changes the officer recommendation that I give you to, obviously this is the correct one, but I will go back to the paper we were on. I'll show you the end of this and then I'll go back, but we're sort of going around the houses here. So the proposal therefore, as I proposed proposal 3, sorry. So my officer recommendation would be that the council resolve to amend the structure to proposal 3. This would mean that the per rod charge are as follows, and then you then have a per rod water charge. Therefore, the total rod charge for each level would be as follows.
Thank you. It's probably worth mentioning that in terms of water subsidies, I believe Boyett would have just introduced that at their allotment sites, and others do it as well.
Yeah, so I, in my officer recommendation, the actual official one rather than the updated correct spreadsheet for you, I have put that I've had discussions with Boyett Wood, and like us, they've had very high water bills this year. It's
I think
been a hard
everybody
month.
probably has.
Yes. So they are looking they would expect it's going to increase to the same level as what we were going for on proposal 3. So therefore we would be in line with Boyett Wood.
And other councils around the country, from my quick research,
And
do
also,
also
if we were
introduce
to
have
charge £4 per rod, it still represents a 40% subsidy on water alone from the proposed projected bill for this year.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on any of that before we get into a debate about it? Councillor Clifton.
2 questions that came to mind. I think the first one is kind of partially answered, but considering that the community governance review is likely to go through and we expect to be merging with Boyett Wood, I think it'd be helpful to understand exactly what the charges will be for Boyett Wood so that we're aligned with them, because we're likely to be the same council as of April next year. So I just wanted to clarify, because it wasn't very clear from what the Deputy Clerk was just saying. Are the proposed rents in any of these proposals the same as what Boyett would do?
The rent is not, so the per rod rate is not in line. They have not moved it since they took on from EDC, so we are already out of line if we even kept it as it is now. But they do currently charge £5 for a 2.5 rod plot, so a half plot, and they charge £10 for a 5 rod plot, full plot. That is expected to double from conversations I've had. So therefore it would be £20 for a 5 rod, which is
That's for the water,
proposal. Yeah, for water, sorry. So that's what they're expecting it will be next year for water.
Thank you. And my second question was about the principle of how the subsidy would operate, the levy for the water would operate, because obviously we have a lot of work in place now, allotments, to try and encourage the harvesting of rainwater and reuse of water. So is there any anticipation that where a plot holder can demonstrate that they're not using the water that's being supplied by the mains, then they wouldn't have to pay the levy? And is there a risk that if we don't have some capacity for coping with that, we're going to end up with significant complaints and dissatisfied plot holders?
So I think obviously there is a lot of work that we're going to be doing in the allotments over rainwater harvesting, and that is something that we are actively pursuing. However, from my research, the water is always based on the previous year. So where, for instance, Boyett Wood are charging less this year, they're charging more, that's because it's gone up. So they almost work on a retrospective, there you go, a retrospective basis. So it could, as we are aligning it to a rod amount and a water amount, there is always the benefit of it decreasing or increasing if they use more. But I don't know that we can provide a area where they can prove or not prove if they're using the water. I think that would be extremely difficult to prove or disprove, which could in turn create even more upset between the allotmenteers. I think we can advise them that, you know, as they do in other parishes, if you make the most and you don't use the water, your bill's not going to be as high, it will come down. It gives them an incentive to not use it as such.
Does that answer your question? Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, comments then. Councillor Bignell.
It's not a comment, but can we just have, because the screen's going up and down, can we actually have the recommendation with the actual accurate figures on it,
Of
please?
course, I just went back because we hadn't actually gone through the legal.
Okay.
Has everyone read the paper, or would you like me to continue going through it? I'm happy to go back to the retrospect, the corrected ones.
I think we've all seen.
That's absolutely fine, not a problem. So would you prefer these ones or the ones at the top? Which?
I think those ones. That's what we'd actually be charging, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and so are we going with,
We've got level 2s and 3s, haven't we? So it'd be a £14 and a £15
Yes.
per rod charge
Yeah.
with the £4 surcharge for water.
So we have,
with the prices.
we have one site at level 2.
£2 and £3 added.
So yeah, it's £2 on extra for a level 2 on the rod price, and it's £3 on a 3.
So this is proposal 3.
Yes,
Mhm.
this is for proposal 3.
Yeah.
Who wants to talk? Or does anyone want to make a proposal? Councillor O'Neill.
Accept the officer's recommendation.
For option 3?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a seconder for that?
I second it so we can release it on the table and be debated.
Councillor Bicknell, thank you. Any debate on that one? Councillor Bicknell?
It's a debate in general, really. I mean, I second Councillor O'Neill's proposal just so that we actually get to a point of debate. It will be interesting for the Town Council, whichever proposal we went for, other than perhaps proposal 1 or no increase. I have experience of dealing with the allotment associations, albeit some time ago, 15 years ago. But we actually need to do what we think is actually fair, and that's fair for all parishioners. It has been outlined by the Deputy Clerk that even with a fee for water, that is still a big discount. Given the fact that the allotment holders this summer were still allowed to use hose pipes to grow vegetables on their allotment, but actually in their gardens at home they would sure would have died because they weren't allowed to. So there are still benefits from allotment. They are still heavily subsidised. They're subsidised by all parishioners, and the percentage is it on there?
It'd be 50, wasn't it?
Still a
50.6.
a 50% subsidy plus a 50% subsidy on water. So you can argue the finer points on any of the proposals, to be honest with you, whether it be 3, 4 and to a degree number 2. It will be interesting as to how it's received. It's a price increase, so it's not going to be received well. We have to be realistic on that. Nobody ever receives a price increase willingly. But as councillors and council, we have to do what we think is fair for the allotment holders and also for the rest of our parishioners. And a 50% subsidy for what is actually a small percentage of our parishioners, I think is still fair. So I'll be quite happy to support the proposal put forward proposed by Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill?
Yeah, Councillor Bicknell's quite right that things go up, people are going to complain, but they must know from their own homes that things are going up. And with climate change and hotter summers, water bills are going to go up because there's more water in and less rain. So I think it's very fair, and I suggest we vote on it.
Thank you. Any other comments before we go to Councillor Clifton?
I agree with the comments mentioned so far. The only thing that I would add is that the calculations that have been presented so far don't take into account any of the additional discounts that are offered to plot holders. So even with this charging scheme and the 50% subsidy that we're agreeing on the base rates, we're actually going to be subsidising it even more. because some of the plot holders are entitled to discounts. So on that basis, I think it's actually more than fair. I think the fact that the water subsidy will be reviewed on a regular basis based on how much the water is actually costing, I agree, gives an incentive for the plot holders to try and reduce their reliance on the mains water. I think we just need to make sure that's clear to them so that we actually encourage them to consider alternative methods of watering their plots.
Thank you, Councillor Clifton. Any other comments before we go to a vote? Councillor Bittner?
I think we've actually might have agreed in assets, or it's an aspiration. I've seen it written down somewhere, and that. But actually, just going back to the water, and it's not really relevant to actually proposal tonight on that. But obviously, long term, we need to work with the allotment holders on all the sites for proper rainwater harvesting. I think I mentioned it in assets. I had a chat with Alec Mullins before some years back about an idea he had at Lakeside to use the buildings to rainwater harvesting, and those big 1100 or 1000 litre containers that we can use for rainwater harvesting, similar to the community garden in Market Street. And we need to work with the allotment holders, because then actually we'll have the buy-in from them, because actually if we can bring down the water that actually we need off the mains and do rainwater harvesting, I think there are some technicalities of using water that's harvested over the winter if it's stagnant and using it on seeds and stuff. I don't think they like it, they might die, but that can all be, talk to the experts and that. So it's something for the future as a bit of a caveat to what Councillor Clifton sort of mentioned with reference to local water and the buy-in from the allotment holders.
Yeah, I know it's, as the Deputy Clerk mentioned, it's actively being looked at, so yeah. Anything else before we vote? Okay, we've got a proposal which has been seconded on proposal number 3. So that will be level 1 up by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, etc. with a £4 surcharge for water. All those in favour of that proposal? That's unanimous, and for the record we probably should mention that 2 people did not vote. Thank you. And for that reason, for the reasons we understand. The next item, to receive for approval the proposed amendment to the allotment concession policy in line with the EQUIAs. Deputy Clerk again.
Okay, so last year when we were looking at the pricing structure, there was a proposal to phase out the over 60s discount, or that we had inherited from EBC, or remove it completely. There was an action given to myself to create an equality impact assessment for the phase removal. That was sent to Asset last week, week before, and it was actually discussed that if we did we also did a further equality impact assessment on keeping the 50% discount for the UBC for the people that had it when they came over to us, that we would be able to see which was the clear vision. So I have created both equality impact assessments. Hopefully you have read them.
Yeah, thank you.
And following that, my recommendation is to begin the phase removal of the over 60s discount. It gives sufficient time for plot holders to adjust to the changes. We can review it, and it will help mitigate financial impact because we are phasing it out. To actually keep this discount in place is indirectly discriminating other people. So.
Okay. Thank you. So the proposal, although the recommendation is that it would be reduced by 10% per year down to 0 eventually.
Sorry, I'm just trying to open it.
But there is, we do have the concessions policy, so which some people who are getting that discount will be eligible for, so their discount would stop when it reached the 20% if they're eligible for the existing policy. And that's detailed there, isn't it?
No. Just to add, since we've taken on the allotments in 2024, the over 60s discount has not continued for new plot holders. So we phased that out initially, straight away, but we just retained the over 60s discount for the plot holders that were already in place and had the discount from EBC.
So we already have a disparity
so
on the site. Some people are getting it and some people aren't. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yeah. Debate? Or a proposal?
I'll propose it so we can debate it.
Thank you. As seconder for the proposal, Councillor Clifton. Debate none? Anyone want to say anything, or are we going to vote on that? Councillor Clifton?
I'd just like to thank the Deputy Clerk for all the work that she's put into preparing these quality of life assessments. It's really good to see it set out clearly so that we can see the disparity between the two different options that are in front of us. And I think it makes it very clear that we need to make a decision here. And I support the decision to phase that out and rely on the the other discount.
The concessions
The
policy.
concessions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? No? Okay. Oh, Councillor Bicknell?
I just think, again, it's fair. Deputy Clerk's already said that those that are less than 60 are being indirectly discriminated against. And actually, if you're going to have a concessions policy, it needs to be basic on the ability to pay rather than, your birthday might be. And that, so yeah, so again, I think it's fair and the fair and right thing to do.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll take a vote on that. So all those in favour of removing the phased removal of the concession policy, the over 60s? That's everybody, thank you. And again, the two non-voters and the reason why, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item, thank you to the Deputy Clerk for all the work with that. Next item, to receive the Strategic Plan 25 to 29. To receive a presentation of the Strategic Plan for review and approval, including the funding of projects and activities from 25 to 29, and now I get to shut up for a little bit. Over to the Clerk and the Community Officer who are presenting this item. Can everybody see? Do I need to? Can you see okay?
Okay. On the basis that everybody has seen this and we have received questions and those questions have been recirculated out this afternoon, we're going to go relatively quickly through it, but we'll pause at the beginning of all of the new projects that are being proposed to Council, and the Community Engagement Officer will give you some background as to why they are being proposed, what was the identified need, what brought these projects forward. If it still isn't showing, is it? No idea why that won't work. If you have some questions about the individual way that the projects are set up, then we will take those. I think, if I'm able, Chair, the idea from this evening is there are 3 projects that we will get to that we are asking for a decision by Council for an approval for funding for in year this year. Everything else that is actually shown on there, we're asking in principle, does the Council wish to actually have these as their projects that represent their strategic plan and the aims that have been in place for a while? If the answer to that is yes, then the process that will be followed is the actual costings of that will be built into the draft budget, which will start to be modelled up from October, November time, so that you can clearly see the impact. There was a question of what's the impact of this going to be on the precept. That needs to be modelled up. So tonight it isn't a case of can you just say yes or no to the entirety of what you're seeing. There are 3 things that we would like if not a decision on a clear indication. One of them we've already got external funding for, which is waiting for Council's approval. So I apologise, I've got no idea why this will not actually project when I am on.
Need to drag it across.
Do I?
No.
No, okay. Right, okay. So, where nobody's asked me how many XXX homes we have, that is something that is a piece of research that we haven't done, and we didn't actually focus on that. We literally wanted to get the data into here as much as possible. The values are the values that Council set prior to me coming, so this is what you've already agreed on and had a resolution of, to be local first, culturally focused, caring, safe and sustainable. This is a list of the services that you have currently and the activities you've done. The statements that you then see in the next 5 slides are the strategic aims, as to you've had those on your website, or I placed them on your website, but you'd approved them well before, so there should be no questions on those. What we then tried to do is to sit down and work out, if that is a strategic aim, what of those aims are you currently delivering against? And therefore that's what's classed as green. The ones where we believe that there are a need and an opportunity to deliver against are in grey. So obviously we've got greening with the volunteers. I did send today on the update for questions from councillors the case study link, because I put that into the folder with the council briefing, so you can see that from the lady who's been working with the greening. I am going to go quickly, otherwise we will be here till 10 o'clock tonight. We put in place a slide which showed the social return on investment, as in if we had had to pay for the volunteers that had worked with us on greening at the £13.40 per hour value equivalent, which is what the government give you when you calculate social return on investment, we would have paid a total of £4,904.22 for the effort to date, and this was a period up to the beginning of September, would it be?
very recently.
And they've done
Okay.
more stuff since then, so it's gone.
And they've done more now.
So the intention for the greening campaign is at the end of the year, a greening campaign a project book will be produced that will be able to go on the website, and all of these details for the entire 12 months of the project will be given. The outcomes, the unexpected outcomes, what we've learnt in the process and what we can take forward. The community cohesion is obviously the volunteers and the reach out into the community. The work that we're doing in the schools, as I say, I'm going quickly because you've all had a chance to click on everything going here. The families, that isn't a huge area, but we've had a massive amount of success, but we did create the Litter Library as requested by one of our residents, one of our junior residents. It is gently used, I think is the most polite way of explaining that. It's used when there are other activities in the town centre, so there were a couple of litter picks that the chair and the community officer and the greening officer actually attended, and the litter pick kit was used definitely then. We're working in partnership with the bid, etc. So the first thing that we've come to that is new, which is the family support worker. It's not new to council, it is something that was identified in the survey that you went out with. Its details are up on there. There have been a couple of questions in about the figures that were quoted, and some of them are not quite correct. We've taken that point on board. The figures were provided by our partner organisation, Citizen Advice, but we will correct those in the process of actually moving the project forward if it's something the council wants. So I will shut up and hand over to the Community Engagement Officer for him to give you some background as to why this is on the slides.
Yeah, so following ongoing conversations with our local primary schools and Citizen Advice, a clear need was sort of identified that there needs to be a family support worker in primary schools. Currently, obviously there's that big gap in the market that we can obviously cover. The role would play a pivotal part in supporting the children and their families to overcome barriers to learning and well-being at an early stage. All 5 of the primary schools involved in this initiative have high percentages of pupils that are eligible for pupil premium and free school meals, both key indicators of child poverty. So by providing this intervention through dedicated family support, this project aims to tackle the root cause of the disadvantage, improve educational outcomes and contribute to long-term poverty reduction. In collaboration with Youth Options, I've had a few meetings with them. They currently provide family support workers in secondary schools. However, it has been brought to them on numerous occasions that there is still a gap in provision in primary schools. Feedback has been that their provision starts too late, and there's still that transition that we can look to cover from primary schools into secondary schools. At the moment, they're covering it once. It's already escalated. Can we step in early and embed the family support worker at primary school level to basically bridge that gap between primary and secondary school, ensuring that smooth transition up through? So, as I said, with those links with partners, we've obviously identified clear gaps in that provision.
Is it worth pausing for questions?
Yes.
Is this one of those that you are looking for a decision on, or is this a, in principle, this sounds like a good idea, policy and finance go away and look at the costing?
There is an opportunity to start this come January with a partner organisation, and we've put in place indicative costing, so that would be £7,000. It would be taken out of the budget for this year. There is provision of that in the strategic plan reserve, but it isn't one that we are necessarily pushing. It can easily start on the 1st of April, as it can on the 1st of January.
Any questions on this one specifically? Councillor Bicknell?
Cost per annum?
The cost per annum is actually detailed
Next one.
in the figures, which is that for the budget year 25-26 it would be £7,000, and then it's 18,500 for 26-27 and 19,500 for 26-20. Oh, sorry, I apologise. I thought I'd corrected these. 27-28. I am once again time travelling. Very good at that. 25-26 is the optional one to actually commence it. It would cost £7,000, and the reason it costs disproportionately more, because it's a third of the year rather than it's a whole year, is because there's actually recruitment, setup and training costs at the and purchase of laptop at the beginning of it all.
I've got a question.
Yes, Councillor Bicknell.
Will one family support worker be enough? There seems to be an awful lot of kids there.
So yeah, they would work on a part-time basis. However, they would cover 5 primary schools in the area. They would technically work between the schools. They would organise their day, and they would literally just be rotating around those schools. So they wouldn't be based in one school. They would be based externally. They would go into these schools, meet families, ultimately support the teachers and the workers within the school, but on a part-time basis, and cover that. It has been done before. I have spoken to Bella Crawford at Citizens Advice, and in other areas it has been successful. However, yeah, she did mention that before they weren't based in a primary school, they were just covering a number of primary schools, and if it works then we will obviously find to support that.
Councillor O'Neill?
As some of you know, I volunteer for Citizens Advice. We've recently, in the last 2 weeks, taken on a full-time role. If the budget, or Bella's managed to scrounge some money from somebody for us to pay, and I think it's a very good thing to start off. It's obviously very new. It's very new for Citizens Advice as well. It would be very new for the council, and I think it would be an expanding project depending on the take-up. I mean, it would be nice to know that nobody wanted our support because everybody was well off and doing things, but sadly that's not the case. And there's a reluctance on people often to come forward to ask for help. And if somebody's there offering their help, then I think it can only be a good thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? How would you want to play this?
It's not a resolution, but would council indicate its support for this project so that we retain it in our budget figures when we're putting them together, or I defer to the chair.
I just wanted to ask, if we do have a vote on the principle of it, at what point would we be asked to actually make a resolution around committing to supporting the project?
So all the way down at the bottom I did to put next steps. The intention would be to provide a draft budget implications to council on the 15th of November for projects that you wish to take forward, and to demonstrate where they could be funded from. So whether or not they were coming from reserves, or whether or not they would be levied on the precept this year, next year and the year after. There are so many different things that are moving. We have assets coming in, we have special expenses that come with them, we have a community governance review, we have a variety of different aspects of what we've got to consider, but at the same time you can't stand still with your strategic plan.
I appreciate that. The thing I was trying to understand was, I thought that there were certain proposals here tonight that we were being asked to support as a priority for now because we want to get them started, versus some of the longer term ones. And so I'm trying to understand, because you decision sooner rather than later, or is this going to be wrapped up in that bigger decision that happens later?
So there are 3 projects. This is one of them that potentially could start sooner. There are 2 that we really would like a view on, a response on this evening. This one is one of the ones that we are aware of Citizen Advice actually managing to find some funding, therefore the critical element of it. But should council feel that they wish to fund it, there is the price in there of the cost of £7,000, and there is funds in the strategic plan reserve that would allow the council to fund that this year.
Councillor Campbell?
Could I just put in plea that we do think about, if we are in support of it, starting it sooner rather than later? Because obviously starting it in January, the winter is the time where those families are really struggling. Costs are at their highest because obviously you've got heating and those kind of things. You've just gone through Christmas, and also the sooner we get this up and running in schools, because one of the challenges of doing this kind of work has always been the teachers are doing it currently because they have the relationships with the parents, and there has to be that element of trust for people to be able to, say that they're struggling and what have you. So I think that if we are going to do this, the sooner we could get somebody in the schools and helping, the better it would be. And winter's a really challenging time for families. So please, could we think about getting it off and running?
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Bicknell, I saw your hand first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, this is obviously a very good and worthwhile thing to do. If you can help people earlier, then obviously it's better for them, but actually down the road, it actually saves everybody a whole lot of grief and actually potentially money as well. And this is actually where I'm going to come back to. We've mentioned reserves, we've mentioned budget and what have you. And this is not one of the things that Clark was actually saying she wanted a decision on tonight. So this is an addition to a decision that the Clark wanted tonight. I thought you said there was a few things you wanted a decision on, but this support worker with reference to funding wasn't one of them.
There are, I'm just trying to find figures.
But the point is all of this stuff does actually cost. We can use reserves. You can use reserves for a year or 2, and then the reserves run out. So actually you need to be able to fund this stuff on your revenue budget, which we've actually mentioned about, starting to build in October and November. And then of course that revenue budget and the precept we set impacts on all of our residents, including the residents of people that might also want a family support worker. So you've got to be a bit careful on my nervousness with all of this is actually how it affects our revenue budget. Because actually you could end up robbing Peter to pay Paul with some of this stuff potentially. So for me, I'm certainly not against a family support worker in the primary schools at all. But actually we've also got to be able to afford it and not afford it by using reserves, because reserves are finite. We've got to be able to afford it in our revenue budget, and that's our precept that everyone pays each year. Because again, how long is it going to last for? Is it going to be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Or, and that's just the whole thing with some of this stuff. Is how many years you're going to keep funding it for.
Councillor Bicknell, thank you. Councillor Martins?
Sorry, just one point. Are we saying this is coming out of reserves then?
There is a strategic plan reserve that was put aside. So there is a facility available to the council for this budget year, because there was no provision made for it in any other fashion, that if the council decides there is money in that strategic plan reserve that could fund the £7,000 for the cost for this year.
Thank you. Can I just make one point? And this is going back some time ago. Councillor Campbell actually mentioned about a family support worker. This is well over 18 months ago, and I'm glad our community officer has now looked into this, but it is a need within Eastleigh, especially Eastleigh Town. And I would support that basically we use the reserves to actually, for this family support worker to start as soon as possible, because there definitely is a need within Eastleigh.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on this one specifically? Would anyone like to make a proposal on this one specifically for, I guess, for this budget year that we're in? Councillor O'Neill?
Propose that we use £7,500, whatever it was.
7,000.
7,000.
Problems?
In reply to Councillor Bicknell, who said how long does it go on for, I'd like it to be able to stop tomorrow because it's not needed, but that's it. I think it's going to be an ongoing thing for some years and possibly going to get worse. But that's not really a question for today. But I think we need to. I think it would be good for the council to be seen to be doing something to help younger people and their families. And I think it would be money well spent. As for how long it's going to go on for, I don't think that's a decision for today.
So
I propose that we give Ruth and the team, community engagement officer, some money.
the £7,000.
To be set up.
And
and
then
then maybe we can get funding. Citizen Advice Manager get funding. It may well be we can get funding from somewhere else. And as part of that proposal, I'd like to think that we could look into getting some. I know money's short everywhere. Some external money, really.
So let me just get this straight. Your proposal would be that we would spend £7,000 out of the reserves
Yeah.
to the end of
Strategic
April,
reserves, yeah.
and then at that point
We would review it.
it would have to be reviewed for next year's budget, and it might not continue. Council may decide at that point not to continue it. We are only approving a spend of 7,000 up until the end of April this council year.
Yeah.
Is that, am I correct? That's your proposal.
That's my proposal.
Have you got the wording for that? All those words I just said.
That's what's written
Okay.
there.
Does everybody understand that proposal? Is there a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Marks. Is there any other debate or comment? Councillor Bicknell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think actually I agree with some of the points that Councillor O'Neill said. It's a shame we actually need it. And actually, if we are going to do this, we're going to need it for a number of years with the cost of living crisis. Inflation is showing no sign of going down. The food inflation is going up. And we've got the budget coming in November. However, I think it's going to come down. Doing it for £7,000 until April, I think actually is selling everything short. And I can't support doing £7,000 until April. What I could support is actually seeing everything on the table, seeing what is actually affordable, and then prioritising. And if this turned out to be the number one priority, and we have to drop something else, then I would quite happily support not only using the £7,000 in reserves from now until April, but also funding it through the revenue account for 1, 2, 3, 5, however many years. But I'm afraid I can't support this because actually it's only until April. It would do some good, but actually if we were to see the overall picture as a whole and prioritise the council, we could actually do a far better job.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor O'Neill?
I listen to Councillor Bicknell. I think there's no far better job that we can do than to help the youngsters and their families in this town. It's an experiment, if you want to use that word, and putting it off now, we'll never get it started again. I don't think it will just go on and it will just be put on the back burner. Winter time, allotments, people, it's cold, nothing's growing. I think it would be a shame to pass this opportunity of helping families that are in desperate need, some of them. Withering back to Citizens Advice. I see people every week that come in that have no money for fuel, that have no food, that have children, and it's abysmal. It's an abysmal situation they're in. And it's up to us to do something about it, I think. And we can make a start.
Thank you. Any other points before we vote on that proposal? Councillor
I just
Bicknell.
want to clarify, well, I'm actually not against helping young children. I said previously that actually catching them early is far, far better. What What I'm actually against is coming up with something that might not continue until April. And what I actually said is we need to see everything in a whole, because there's other proposals to come later, and then actually prioritise. So if we have to drop something to fund this, I'm all for it, and to fund it beyond April. So I'm not against it, but I actually want, if I was to do it, I'd actually want to do it properly. And if that meant dropping something else and actually looking at the priorities, because at the moment we're just talking about one thing and we've got other things to come which we might deem are not as high priority as this.
Thank you. Councillor Clifton.
I think Councillor Bicknell makes a very important point here. I think potentially we could be doing more harm than good by starting with a support worker, which then gets withdrawn because we've not committed to funding it any further. So I support the principle that actually we need to look at this in the context of the broader things we're being asked to look at, prioritise what we think is the most important before we make any decisions tonight.
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill.
Slightly confused. I thought we were being asked to support it or not. Are you saying, sorry, is it being said that we have to wait to listen to all of them and then decide? In which case, I don't know why we're arguing now about any debate. Why don't we just get on and listen to the other two? Otherwise, we'll still be here at 10 o'clock.
That's not a question for my answer, Chair. Sorry.
If somebody made a proposal,
Yeah.
well, debated, would be then voted on.
But you're, sorry, I am confused. We're asking to vote on something that somebody else has asked that we don't vote on because we need to see what we need to hear what's coming
Let's
next.
withdraw your proposal for now then. Hear the rest of the presentation and then if you're happy to withdraw your proposal.
You asked for a proposal, so I
That's
gave
fine.
If
That's
you're
fine.
withdrawing your request to ask for a proposal,
Yes,
then
I will
agree
then.
with just
Okay.
withdrawing my proposal.
We'll move on to the next bits then and hear the rest.
So just to give some framework, what we really need, the officers, to take these away and work them up and work them into the revenue budget, and the whole reason for providing 25-26 immediate impacts, 26-27, 27-28, even though I don't know what year I'm in, is so that we can get you to say, yes, we wish to have that as a representative project for our council. We we value it, and we can go and put that into the budget. So there were three. This was an opportunity that could start in January. There are two. That one of them is critical. We have external funding, and if we don't have a decision by council, then we'll lose our external funding. And another one is an opportunity one, as it should happen in the winter. We'll come to those in a minute, but that was all there was. So if I go back up, family support worker was followed by the employability, and I will once again hand over to the community engagement officer.
Thank you. If I can just clarify that a lot of these projects are intertwined. We want them to link together. We want them as a signposting opportunity that we can go through from primary schools into secondary schools into employability. We've got that network around it in terms of extra curricular provisions. It is part of a package for me. We want to be able to link these projects together. It's not a standalone project. Anyone we work with through the family support worker, for example, can be signposted into our other opportunities. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not a standalone project. We see this as a network of provisions. Just in terms of employability, I've done so much research on this over the past few months. So through discussions, particularly of Eastleigh Borough Council and local surveys, looking at all the local surveys, we have identified a clear need for increased employability opportunities for young people aged 16 to 24 who are NEET or not in employment, education or training in Eastleigh. Andrew Chivers, who has been great in terms of providing me with previous documents and knowledge around this provision, has raised his concerns about the lack of recent funding for employability projects in Eastleigh. He specifically referenced that the discontinuation of a successful pre-COVID employability programme, which enabled over 30 young people annually to access funded vocational training in Eastleigh, i.e. hairdressing and construction, etc., over a 6-month period, that had been obviously stopped. Feedback gathered via local youth workers and youth voice surveys in Eastleigh consistently has highlighted a common thing. Many young people in Eastleigh are unsure of their future career paths by the age of 16 currently in Eastleigh. A significant number have expressed a desire for taster sessions to explore different industries and to make informed decisions about their futures. So therefore we propose a pilot programme to address the above issues that we propose launching an initial employability pilot programme with the following components. This has been included on there, so that includes taster courses, initially to provide 10 young people with access to 6 weeks of industry taster courses, allowing them to explore potential career options. These courses will be delivered for external partners, offering practical exposure to sectors such as construction, hairdressing, digital media, fitness and more. In-house employer-ready courses. So alongside these taster sessions, we will be able to deliver 6 weeks of in-house employment. This includes personal development and confidence building, financial literacy and budgeting, presentation and interview skills, teamwork and communication workshops, and ultimately the goal is to build soft skills and workplace readiness, allowing young people to gain that confidence and employability skills they need to take forward to the future, giving them that experience before they actually go into that world of work, which is obviously a scary thing once when you turn 16 and let's be honest, they may not know what they want to go into. Thank you.
Can I just add that where we've been able to do things with no cost to the council, community engagement has already started. So for our Christmas event, he has put together a opportunity for Barton Peveril students to be our photographers on the day, and that has had a huge response.
10 of them have come forward so far, so we are working in a little bit of a schedule for them to be able to give them all an opportunity to come down on the day, even for a couple of hours in time slots, in pairs as such, to be able to photograph the event. They're then going to send us their photographs afterwards. We're going to look at them. They can obviously use them for their portfolios, and we can obviously then use them for photographers for other events, hopefully moving forward as well.
And the aim then is to actually get them to learn the media skills that they require to actually put them together as montage. So we are currently sourcing a friendly graphic design or social media individual who is willing to give their time to actually come in and work with the students to actually pivot their photography into something that they can actually use. So where we can do it with no cost to council, we've already started on this. Questions?
Any questions on that one? No? Okay, next.
If there is any that the council does not wish to support, can that be indicated at each time, or how are you going to indicate that? Because we don't want to cost up things that we haven't got.
Councillor Bateman?
I've just got a question with reference to the employability, and it's the budget figures. The actual, what Darren's just gone through, says 10, but in the budget figures then says 30. What am I missing?
It says there's 30 on a 6-week course, 6-week taster course.
The 10 was the Christmas event.
But the unemployability, it then says...
Sorry, I'm
Initial programme looking at the funding
10 young people to access, yeah.
Oh, that must have been a little bit of that.
It is 10 then?
No, it is as per it's costed.
30.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the next one on there is a youth engagement hub.
So we've been engaged in regular strategic meetings with Hampshire Constabulary just to address the ongoing need for a community hub in Eastleigh that operates ultimately for 5 days a week from Monday to Friday. These discussions have consistently highlighted the importance of a central, accessible space to support both community engagement and crime prevention initiatives. Recent surveys conducted with young people in the area have revealed a clear demand for a safe, welcoming space where they can socialise with their friends, particularly in the evenings. This aligns with wider conversations with the police, who have identified a growing need for diversionary activities to tackle antisocial behaviour, especially during those peak periods. We've also held discussions with Youth Options, who are currently based at the centre, at the Energy Centre in Eastleigh, regarding existing youth provision. These conversations have shown that the centre is currently only operational on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, leaving a significant gap in accessible services and engagement opportunities throughout the rest of the week. So crucially, there is currently no designated manager or someone to oversee the centre or any of its activities. Addressing this gap would allow for consistency daily use of the centre, increase revenue through partnerships with local organisations that would be able to use the centre, expand the youth engagement opportunities we have there, as well as long-term sustainability and impact of that actual hub on the community. So investing in the proper guidance and overseeing of the centre and expanding operational hours will ensure the centre becomes a vibrant, multi-use community space that responds to the local needs and contributes meaningfully to reducing antisocial behaviour in the area.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, that the through the asset transfer programme, we have been notified that hub we are anticipating will be made available in the asset transfer programme, subject to council's acceptance.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the youth engagement part of this? No? Okay.
Moving on to
Yeah.
culturally focused. Again, we've got sponsorship of Pride, local events, VE Day, Eastleigh, Christmas, which is a significant event. It's definitely taken up a significant amount of our time. Asset transfers, retaining community spaces and maintaining heritage. It's simple to say we're just transferring assets. The reason we're doing that is to retain community spaces and to maintain heritage of the town. We're not just doing it because we want assets. In this area, based on the survey that not only we did but Together We Make Eastleigh did, it was identified by the residents that responded to those surveys that heritage, the history of what Eastleigh was very important to the residents. Based on that, myself and the community officer sat and brainstormed a heritage project that brought in the elements that people wanted but based it on the greening project officer approach, which is this needs energy, it needs a person, it needs somebody to be creative and go out there. So again, I will pass it over to the community engagement officer. Sorry if I've stolen you.
No, that's all right, yeah. So just to touch on that, many people in Eastleigh, we've realised, don't really realise the rich history that Eastleigh holds. So obviously from its vital role in the development of the Spitfire to its deep roots in the railway, it has a story worth telling and we want to be able to tell that. And obviously celebrate that as well, just because there's a lot of successes along the way. Unfortunately, this heritage is often overlooked. There is currently no dedicated museum, little visible information around the town centre to educate residents or visitors that come into the town about Eastleigh's past. We want to obviously change that. Through our own research and collaboration with local partners who are deeply connected to this history, we've learned that one community, for example, currently hold a significant portion of these historical materials in their archives. Materials we aim to uncover and highlight. Additionally, many artefacts from the former museum that remain stored in the unused, now deserted building. So our aim is to bring Eastleigh's history to life in a way that's engaging and accessible for everyone, whether it's through interactive displays, public art, digital storytelling, community-led events. We believe the town's identity should be visible, proud and inspiring. We're also looking to link up with Barton Peveril College students as well as other college students to help us along the way to create different materials that we can use, i.e. an app that everyone can access to be able to have that little bit of a trail around the town centre and to tell that story in more a visible, interactive way as such.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything before questions? No?
The costings on this, as you'll see, actually don't ask for the project to commence until April next year, but it's only a one-year funding because it is a I can't remember what the term that Councillor Bicknell used, but basically it's to bring in the engagement of the community and actually confirm that there is a real requirement from the community for a heritage project. And then we believe that we have 2 or 3 funding sources that with that data, once it's been collated, we will be able to get external funding for this.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, the Eastleigh History Society, about 5 or 6 years ago, used to do walks and tell people about the history of Eastleigh, going around to different places and pointing out times and so you could go and try and talk to them as well. So
yeah, so we've recently linked up with Alston House, the town rangers as well. So I actually brought that to Eastleigh Bid. We had a bit of a community conversation around it, and they've actually recently done a walk around with Alston House residents and just highlighting different places. This is Greens, this used to be. So it just brought back a few memories, especially for the care homes and the residents. Alston House were really keen to back this because it actually brought back some of their memories, i.e. dementia patients, for example, or residents in Alston House. It actually helped them to start to think about their past when they were growing up in Eastleigh, so it actually has health benefits as well to some of these older residents. And we're really keen to link up with some of their, not just Alston House, but other care homes, as we're doing through Greening, to be able to bring this heritage into them as well.
Councillor Bickman?
I think all the exhibits are now being taken back to Hampshire and put into storage. There's nothing left in the building, including the mock-up of the railway loco cab, which is actually at, what's their place at Basingstoke?
Milestones.
Yeah,
Milestones,
so
yeah.
it's actually, they put it up there because there was nowhere actually, like, say, keeping so it's in. But the building's actually empty now, probably using like a sieve.
Any other comments or questions on this one?
Just one
Councillor
point, talking about that, did everyone know that in the centre we had 13 churches? So there you go.
Yeah.
That's what you can find out
That's
where they
it.
were.
Thank you.
Next.
Okay, caring. Greening obviously has been out there spreading the greening wherever, Alston House being a success. We had a little bit of a challenge, which is, would we call the tick awareness as a caring? Actually, we took a tick off one of the runners' heads, so we reckon that's caring. Grants, bereavement support, we gave grants to mental health just singing, and we've removed the barriers. The community engagement officer is actually trying to be part, or trying to instigate or reinstigate the support group for the Disability Access Forum. On this, we basically have some ideas, which is we are looking at Friends of Parks groups, we're looking at neighbourhood networks, and our Asset and Open Spaces officer is out there currently at the moment speaking to members of the public as he's going around looking at the green spaces and verges and assets, and is in the process of finding some resident warriors, if that's what we want to call them, so that we will actually have those people who are interested in actually representing the residents in their area. So what else? From when we sent this to you, the one idea that did come forward was a new caring warm hubs for the elderly. This was something that we were approached with. We've got this fantastic room here. I'll pass it back to Darryl.
Yeah, so just to reiterate what Councillor Campbell said earlier around the winter months, obviously it's going to be very cold in the UK. 62% of over 65s are concerned about heating their homes, with 54% worried about paying their energy bills. Additionally, 60% of over 60s with a household income of £20,000 or less have recently cut back on heating or other essential services just to make ends meet. We know in Eastleigh specifically, the percentage of people living alone over the age of 66 is 12.6% of all households. We also know that 3,300 households are in fuel poverty under the low income, low energy efficiency indicator, which is about 6.5% of households. So through providing some warm hubs initially piloted in December and January at Cableworks, this will provide a safe, heated and welcoming space for adults over the age of 60 to gather, socialise and take part in activities. Plus, access to hot food and drinks and reduce the risk of cold-related health issues and social isolation during those winter months. So we aim to serve approximately 15 to 20 elderly residents per week, resulting in improved mental health and physical well-being, strengthen community connections and reduce pressure on emergency services. We have spoken to various local partners who work within this sector, one of them being Wells Place Centre, who currently provide hot drinks and space for the elderly in central Eastleigh all year round. Therefore, we aim to promote these warm hubs within the nearby locality of West Eastleigh, so surrounding this area, where there is a current gap in provision and will allow easy accessibility for those over 60 to get across to here, using this wonderful space downstairs to be able to host them, providing different activities. We've already been in contact with partners such as local bands, craft workshops and bits and bobs, who have also expressed their interest in this and providing their services for this type of provision. So we're really keen to hopefully get this off the ground. Thank you.
So this is one of the ones that we are asking for approval of £400. It's 4 hubs, £100 a hub. It's not a lot. It's within my delegated power if I wish to do it, but I would actually like council to make an active decision and say they would wish to back it.
Taking on board Councillor Bicknell's point earlier, I think this is probably one we could make a decision on right now, but Councillor Bicknell?
Excuse me, yeah. Yeah, it's a very simple question. Why is it warm hubs for the elderly? Why not just warm hubs? Because actually there's people in their 40s and their 50s that actually suffer from social isolation and loneliness. It's not just elderly people. And equally, there's people in their 30s, 40s and 50s that struggle to heat their home. So I would question whether it has to just be for elderly. And actually potentially elderly people might quite like to socialise with somebody who's 30 in their 40s or their 50s. And likewise.
Yeah,
I haven't got a granddad left, so if I was so minded, a place like this, I could adopt the granddad.
As a new project.
It's a very good point. Obviously, we just wanted to pilot something. So obviously, we had those 4 stage sessions we sent for the elderly. However, if it is made a sustainable thing, and we can prove that we get the numbers, and we can prove that it's something that we feel is more sustainable all year or winter round, we can obviously extend that out to different age groups. It doesn't have to just be elderly, it can be the younger ones, it can be everyone mixed in together. Obviously it depends on the numbers within here, how many we want, how much staff we've got, depending on what activities we've got, for example. But this is just something that we can get started with. There is no restrictions on expanding it into any different areas for anyone, so it is very inclusive. Obviously the one thing that we were speaking about to local partners was to do with the elderly in terms of the statistics we've got in Eastleigh. However, as Councillor Bicknell just said, there is no room, no reason we couldn't expand that. So it's a very good point.
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill?
I agree with Councillor Bicknell. I think in Eastleigh, the elderly are probably not as badly off as some of the, again, going back to my experience with citizen advice, we've got 30-year-olds living in Eastleigh Park Woods, and people with young families, or not even young families, people that are looking after old adult children, disabled children, they suffer far more. There was a programme I heard on the radio, I think it was yesterday morning, saying how well off pensioners are. And of course the generation at the moment of pensioners is quite well off because they're all on, if they're working on final salary pensions and whatever else. It's the future pensioners who I think will be less well off. I agree, yeah, £400 isn't very much, but I think 60, elderly, that's young.
Councillor Campbell, you an excellent.
Yeah, I certainly support what's been said already. I'd like to see it just be a warm hub, full stop, but, on the basis that you presented for the elderly. And apologies if you covered this, because I think in my head I thought absolutely, and he's probably stopped listening, so you may have said this. But in my experience of doing these kinds of things in the past, the biggest challenge with the elderly is actually getting them here and providing some form of transport to do that. So did you cover that?
I did, yeah. We've obviously been speaking to Wells Place in Central Eastleigh. We know that's a permanent warm hub. In terms of the accessibility to this centre, obviously, if we were to expand it, it may be linking up with one community and Community First to be able to provide that transport accessibility. However, initially our plan was to base it and to fly in this area in terms of the west of Eastleigh, because there's nothing really going on within this area. We've just highlighted that as a gap in the market and gap in provision. Currently, we've got one in central Eastleigh, but if you live on the outskirts of Eastleigh, is there anywhere that these elderly people can access? And we've found that as a gap. As I said, I'm just highlighting information we found out through my research in the area.
Thank you. Councillor Clifton?
Absolutely support anything that's being proposed at the moment. It's just a thought or a request really, because there's something that occurred to me last year or the year before around whether we could operate a scheme where we partner with commercial venues to effectively subsidise or even cover the cost of a drink, so that people can use those venues as a warm hub. So it could be places like Costa or Coffee No. 1 or other places like that in the town centre. But there's also YMCA Eastleigh, the Lakeside Cafe, which are more local to some of those more outlying areas of the town, might be easier for people to get to, and rather than us trying to just provide it all and run it all, we could just effectively pay another organisation to deliver it for us. We just need to think around what would be the logistics of how do we make sure that that's going to the people that want it to get to, and not just anybody who rocks up for the sake of wanting to have a free coffee.
So I think in terms of we obviously want to provide activities, so that's why we just thought initially the space would be good. If you obviously used Costa or whatever, you wouldn't be able to necessarily access the ukulele jam, or it might be arts and crafts wrapping up presents we had, and so it was just sort of the space that we had in mind initially. But
Good idea though.
yeah, really good point though, thank you for that. Excellent.
I think we can probably, for the sake of £400, make a decision on this one now, if everybody's happy with that. I'll make that a proposal that we allow the £400 towards this. There's a seconder there. Any other comments or questions before we vote on it? Okay, all those in favour? That's everybody, thank you. That's that one done.
Thank you.
Don't spend it all at once.
You heard that. Okay, safe. So this slide slightly needs updating because from when the strategic plan slides were put together, there was then a subsequent planning meeting and some decisions were made. So that is actually updated in a new costing pack. It came in very very late, and so you're looking at what you've got in front of you. On there, you've got all the things that are currently funded, which are in pink, and the two that aren't in funded. Obviously, the youth engagement hub you've already seen. The one to look at next is the so on this, the speed indication devices. I understand they're still proceeding through the Planning and Highways Committee. Correct. The safety project is about working with the police to provide bike road safety for young people. Whilst that hasn't actually been instigated, it is still the intent of the committee to move forward with that. A safety campaign, however, is something that you have, as a committee, made a decision, the planning committee, that you do not wish to proceed with that this year. So the funds of that are put back as the community speed watch as well.
The speed watch as
Oh,
well.
so the safety campaign you're keeping, the speed watch you're not. Okay. Family support sessions in the youth hub, you've had that already detailed by the community engagement officer. So Friday night football, and I will head this up. This is something which we have already received funding, 2-year funding from the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. We had funding, we believed, granted by the Eastleigh Local Area Committee through the previous local area manager. That hasn't necessarily translated, but there has been an incredible amount of work done by the new local area manager in the last few days, with a hope that that commitment that was made on behalf of that committee will be carried forward. So that's the only caveat. When this was written, that was our view, that we had information that told us that that grant was available. That has had to be reworked in the background. So I will hand over to Darren.
So for this one, the Council has a duty under the Crime and Disorder Act 2003 to consider its effect on activities within the council area such as antisocial behaviour. This includes diversion activities aimed at keeping young people off the street during those antisocial behaviour spikes. One of the objectives aligned to the Together We Make Eastleigh strategic plan is that we look to increase the offer of more youth-centric spaces and activities in the town. In line with this, we aim to deliver an increased offer of fun and engaging activities for young people to participate in physical activity and provide a safe environment for them to socialise with friends. The main aim of this programme is to increase open access sessions delivered at appropriate times in the borough of Eastleigh. Using local insight, delivery has been strategically placed to impact, particularly in the areas of these antisocial behaviour areas. With the support of Hampshire Constabulary, it is proposed that these sessions will allow any local young person, no matter their background, to access free football during the week, especially in the left behind areas of Eastleigh West, to help to support them having an improved physical well-being and enjoy engaging in football and sport. We are currently in discussions with other councils around expanding diversionary provisions in other areas of need. However, Places of Leisure has been initially identified as this within that part of Eastleigh. We have had recent talks with the Leisure Centre itself, who have had previous experiences of this kind of provision. Initially they were firmly against it, however with a little bit of conversation, highlighting our new plans for this provision, they are now backing it. They want to have more conversations in the very near future in terms of how they can support us further with this. So that is a very positive thing for us. And it's great that we've got them on board to be able to deliver this programme. And ultimately we want to signpost young people from other activities that we've got into this provision, out of this provision, etc. Especially when I'm talking about other parishes into these activities, can we link up with them? Can we get buy-in from other parishes to be able to signpost their young people into these activities as well? Thank you.
In relation to other parishes, the youth engagement work and the Friday night football is something that community engagement officer has been working very hard on for quite a long time, and the message has got out into the wider audience that this is actually a provision that is out there, and we have been approached by other parishes as to whether or not it would be something of a service that they could buy into.
Exciting.
So the decision on this evening, which is if we have already secured the OPCC grant, that is based on the fact that we have to commence this project, this programme in this financial year. They would like us to do it in October. We have a meeting tomorrow where we have to tell them that it's going to be January, and we'll see what happens there. We are waiting, hot off the press, for a response to the £5,000 a year that was initially confirmed to be available from ELAC. If that was the case with the funding from OPCC and the funding from ELAC, our cost against our budget for this budget would be £360. If the funding is not available from ELAC, it would be £5,360. The funding from the OPCC is split across 2 years, but it is split. Therefore, the intention is to actually trial this out as soon as possible, and we've put in place the costings for next year. If EBC come forward with, if ELAC come forward with a 15-year programme, you can see that the funding for the second year, the budget required, will be 4,640. That may not actually be that high because we are looking for support from Places Leisure for free pitch hire, which they have yet to confirm, but that is the support that we are asking them for. So this is a programme that is supported by the police. It's supported by partner organisations, it's supported by community facilities. It's almost a cost-neutral cost to the council. It is one we are asking for a decision on this evening.
Okay. Questions, comments? No one? Councillor Hutton?
I think it's brilliant to see, and I hope that we will support it, bearing in mind everything else that's already been said about prioritising everything else. I was just thinking about whether in future years in particular we might have other facilities as well that we might be able to use, so we're not reliant on Places Leisure. So hopefully that, again, the cost may not be that high, but yeah, I'd be really keen to support this.
Councillor Martin, I saw your hand next.
Sorry, I must have missed it somewhere. But basically, when did ELAC actually say that they were going to give? Is it some time ago?
So the conversation and the transaction, the email, so there was a couple of meetings between officers, and the local area manager gave commitment. The business case was sent forward. I don't know quite what happened after that. The local area manager has changed, and all I can say is that there's been some sterling efforts done by the current local area manager. We've re-provided the business case, we've re-provided updated funding information. I know it has been discussed with the chair of the Eastleigh Local Area Committee. I don't know what process that committee will have to go through. I don't know what the delegated powers of the local area manager is for permitting funding. We are in that, it's moved so quickly since Monday, I can't tell you as to whether or not when I log on tomorrow morning there'll be a decision or not, or whether or not it will have to go to some sort of a committee. I am aware that the local area manager, maybe Councillor Bicknell will fill it in, is able to make a spending decision prior to or has done in the past, prior to a local area committee meeting, and has done in the past of £11,000.
Councillors can indicate in advance, but the local area manager can't make a decision.
Okay.
But yeah, retrospectively,
I'm guided by then. In my time of stalking the committee, there has been one allocation of budget in between meetings.
Councillor Bicknell?
I've dealt with Friday night football for a number of years now through ELAC. It's always been really well supported by people actually participating in Friday night football. I don't know what's happening with the budget, the ELAC budget for the 25-26. But it wasn't. I thought it was, but I haven't reviewed the budget for quite some time. And yes, things can be allocated retrospectively, like the last finance report went to ELAC and the money and some of the work's already been done. But actually that's only the prior agreement for councillors. So a local area manager can't just give money without actually getting the okay from council. So if it does happen, it's because it's been agreed retrospectively by councillors.
Any other comments?
Wouldn't the Eastleigh Football Club want to provide the pitches free of charge? That's good for their image, for community engagement and stuff like that.
So yeah, I know I've been for a couple of meetings with Eastleigh Football Club so far. Rich Hill down there, I know Josh knows very well, the Community Development Officer. Currently they are running a girls only football session on a Friday evening. They've done this to basically get the provisions with girls. We do know that the girls only football sessions are running down there, and we will be linking with Eastleigh Football Club to be able to signpost girls potentially that don't want to be playing mixed football on a Friday night with some of these boisterous boys. So we have had that conversation. In terms of pitch hire down there, they don't have any other pitches available. They've only got one small AstroTurf at the back, especially in the winter months where we need the lighting. Places at Leisure currently is the perfect venue in terms of the cages. We do have the hub where we can expand other sessions to hopefully in the future. However, currently the pitches at Places Leisure are very suitable for this type of activity, and at least we've got that link with Eastleigh Football Club, so that we can signpost over there as well.
Any others?
Just to add, Peter Hussey, down at March Brook with AstroTurf as well.
Anything else?
The key thing is a venue that the young people can get to on their own, that is safe to travel to, as we've been discussing the crossing of the road. The football club, there are already concerns about them travelling to and from there.
I thought the football club were actually providing transport for the girls to go down on Friday because of that reason.
They do.
Okay. And this is one that you would like a decision on?
Yes, please. As I say, we have a meeting tomorrow morning with the OPCC to say, yes, please, we'd like your money, or no, we don't want your money, thank you very much, but thank you for offering it to us.
So, in terms of the amount and where it's coming from, is it best to do the higher amount?
Yeah,
Just
so
in case.
to be sure to run the programme between now and the end of March, which is the half tranche funding from the OPCC, would require an additional £5,000 to the 360. So the total cost without any funding from ELAC would be 5,360 out of a strategic reserve of £43,000. So there is available funding.
Do we want to vote on this one now or take it as part of the wider conversation at the end? Councillor Clifton?
Can I suggest that we take this part of the wider conversation?
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, we'll move on to the next.
Yeah, next one is sustainable. Obviously you've got the bits in green, the things that we're already doing. The grey infrastructure, the grey are the work that we're looking in the allotments to rainwater harvesting. Looking at the asset and open space officer and the deputy clerk on that, and the use of the grey infrastructure at the allotments to see how we can look at those. You've all seen the information about greening. I believe we did thermal imaging last winter. We're going to do it again. It had a great engagement of 47 residents, and we actually had one of the busiest residents' evenings in this room was the energy event. And we will be putting it on again, and I strongly suggest that councillors come, if for no other reason than to actually see and talk to the number of residents that actually turn up for that. We launched the refill scheme, and we engaged with the businesses. I'm afraid there's another 3 X's there because we didn't fill that one in either. We will give you an update on that as to how it's going. It's quite difficult getting data from businesses, but we are working on that. So there are no budget fundings on there because they're all funded. So as I come to the end of this, the plan provides funding details for 3 years to build longevity into projects, and also to detail the commitment for the council for the future funding. We will, where we possibly can, seek external funding, and you can see from our example for Friday night football, we've already been out there and tested the market as to how fundable a town council is, because that's one of the hurdles that you do actually have to overcome. We're not a charity, therefore some funders won't actually give us money. We believe projects such as Heritage, the youth engagement and the hub, the family support worker, which is backed up by Councillor O'Neill's comment of that there should be funding for it out there. As I said, the impact of the overall plan will be reviewed in the budget setting process, which starts in I emphasise that, starts in October, along with the asset transfer, special expenses and the merger of the councils. In that budget setting process, we would still welcome any additional projects that are identified by the committees in their budget setting process, but we would ask at that point that those projects are detailed by the committee as to which element of the strategic plan they actually fulfil, as we've had to retrospectively do that and try and work out which is. That overall plan, once council has agreed it, should be available, will need to be available for residents so they can identify where the funding that they're giving the council is actually being spent. There was a comment about a revenue budget. It's been my experience that residents will wholeheartedly get behind additional costs on their presets if they can identify exactly what it is that the council is spending. So for every £9,000 that this council wishes, or circa, to actually add on to its revenue budget, it's £1 equivalent for a resident to on Band D equivalent tax. When you talk about it in terms of would you be willing to contribute £1 or £2 or £3 to receive a family support worker, or £4 to have a family support worker and Friday night football, or employment for youth engagement, residents don't tend to be as resistant to the precept amendments or adjustments, and I am not advocating simply putting up a precept here. I'm trying to explain the fact that the more information that we provide to our residents as to how their money is being spent, the more engaged they are in what is important to them. And then the very last thing is, obviously we need to make it prettier, because we've all had great fun with PowerPoint and circles and lines and icons, etc., but we are not a graphic design team. We do not do graphic design. We've done the best we could to actually make it something that you didn't die by a PowerPoint. These are the financial totals that I was asked to look at. So can I just say, when you look at 26-27, 169,640 to come out of the revenue is a terrifying budget. But when you look at what you've already funded this year, 109,506, and you haven't really understood 100% of where every penny of that money is going, because we haven't identified it against the strategic plan up until now, we are only talking about an element of uplift that we've already identified that we could probably get external funding for to mitigate as well. And in the final year, that external funding that we're saying we would go and get, we are anticipating will have quite a significant drop back on the required amount of money. So the totals of the things we're asking for tonight was the £360 for the Friday night football, or 5,360, the £7,000 for the family support worker, and the £400 for the support hub. Obviously, we would be disingenuous of us to actually put this in front of you without actually saying to you that obviously if you were to support the concept of a youth engagement hub, there needs to be people to actually deliver that. So there will be some implications on officer costs to actually deliver against projects. We have the community engagement manager officer has put, he promoted himself there.
I thought you were going to change that to minutes.
Has put together an indication of what he would anticipate would be needed if all projects were approved, and a breakdown of what those jobs actually entailed, so even more information. As I said, the idea is that the funding for this will come back to council on the 25th of November. There you go, you have had 61 slides as against the 58 you originally looked at. And we're finished.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
That's a big sigh.
Councillor Campbell.
I've got no idea.
Firstly, thank you to all the officers for all the work that they've done. And anything I'm about to say, I think you have all done a tremendous amount of work, even officers who aren't here tonight, and I'm fully in support of all of that. I wonder if, I've got a few comments. One, I think we're asking in this document, the greening campaign to do too much. And I think if I was a resident, I know probably when it goes out to residents it's going to look a bit different, but I think when you go back to our values, the ordinary person in the street, when they think of the words sort of caring, or they think about safe, or, you know, culture or whatever, sustainability, I think they have got some things in mind, probably, and we try to stretch greening sort of everywhere, and I personally don't think it works. I actually think it makes us, I think it's weak. And actually I think our strategic plan, it's our strategy for how we are going to deliver the future of Eastleigh, and therefore it should be something that everybody can understand, it should be exciting, and it should be sort of bold. I think the proposals that were put forward, you know, for specific ideas, yeah, I'm fully in support of those. I have to say, I wonder, and I think Ellie's doing an absolutely cracking job, let me please, you know, stress that. But I think with the greening things, I just have to ask, is the greening campaign actually working for us? Because I wonder about the, you know, could we join up with, for example, Fair Oak and Bishopstoke, and join in with the bee corridors, for example, which is, you know, a lovely sort of piece of work, and that will sort of, you know, people understand that. I wonder about, so reading all the documents that you provided us, some of the things that weren't there and that people said they wanted was about, you know, talking about safety and people feeling that Eastleigh is not safe in the evening. And the meetings that I went to with the Wayne Hemingway lot, they were sort of saying, in talking to people and trying to tease out what were they meaning, it's because they kind of felt unsafe because you come into Eastleigh in the evening and the streets are absolutely deserted. And if you think about one of our, when we talked about local first, that was really our one about the economy. So those things that fell under it, and what we were talking about, it was about actually, you know, trying to support local people with their, you know, local businesses and local people to get jobs and all those sorts of things. And I sort of wonder, you know, there was also the other thing that came out of that, those research that was done with the people of Eastleigh, was about music and having sort of, you know, live music in the town, and there's nothing about that. One of the things they really loved was about, Eastleigh's got a lot of green parks and things, and we do, or Eastleigh Council has traditionally done a lot of really good events in the town centre. And I was thinking, well, we've got one of our, when we talked about sustainability, we were talking a lot about green things, and could we have an event that is that people around the area, the wider area, recognise Eastleigh for, that's maybe held in our parks, because we've got lots of green spaces. So in Southampton, they've just had Music in the City. A few months back, we had the Beggars Fair in Romsley. You have the Hat Fair in Winchester. And those events, I know that Winchester and Romsley are a different kettle of fish to us, but they pull people in who come for the music or they come for the entertainment. And I'm sort of thinking about, could we not have some things that are, I don't know if this word, you can use it in this way, but when we talk about protected characteristics, you talk about intersectional sort of thing, could we have some things in there where it pulls together all those kind of things, where, I was just messing around thinking about, like, play in the park, and could you have, all your green venues, we've got Lakeside, we've got Lee Rec, we've got, Paul, the one near you, Grantham Green, we've got Fleming Park, and you could have an event where we want to introduce, the young people. Could you have performances? Could it be drama? Could it be dance? I don't know, things like that. But just things that would attract people from outside, bring them in, bring that money, and then get that idea of that actually Eastleigh is a destination. I don't know, I just didn't feel that we're capturing in there. I don't know, I'm looking at you, you might be tired or you might just think I'm going off on one, so I don't want to prolong this meeting
I think,
anymore.
do you want to come back on anything? Or no?
I don't disagree with a single word you said. I think they're all absolutely phenomenal, and I I'm not telling you fibs, but to say that those conversations are sort of conversations that we dream about, our blue sky. If we had a board in the office, they would be written on them. We are a very small team growing, there's no doubt about that. And with respect, those ideas are the ideas that we're looking at you as councillors to bring in. You're a member of the asset committee. The terms of reference of the asset committee is about event management. It's about use of the assets. Please bring them forward. Please put them on their plan to be actually part of the funding, the planned projects for the budget as it goes forward. I can't really say any more than that. There are a few little wrinkles, which is the areas that you're looking at are currently in areas that we don't have responsibility nor capacity to do a lot with. We still have a borough council that is still operating significantly in our town centre. And we have a mode of operating in that town centre that is being set and run and operated by them as the council that has the responsibility for that at the moment. We do work in partnership with them where we possibly can. The Christmas event is a prime example of that. But there's no problem with actually putting them in there for the future. And as I say, I would bring them to the committees that you're
I
representative
think they're all
on.
good ideas. I think this is just a first quick wins that these projects have been identified that are good projects to get us going, and absolutely, expand as we grow and get bigger. Councillor Bicknell, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thanks, Joe. Comment and then a couple of quick questions. Don't disagree with anything you say, Councillor Campbell. This is a young document. We're a young council. To have such a document at this stage in the life of a brand new parish council, we're talking about local government reorganisation and what have you, but I can't imagine after 3 or 4 years any new unit or authority is going to be anywhere close to having anything like this. And like with all these things, it shows a direction of travel and a direction of intent. They're not cast in stone, they're evolving documents, and they can evolve and be added to as time goes on and other ideas come up. It's not possible to do everything at the Rome wasn't built in a day. So I think, as you say, Councillor Campbell is great, and it can be added to it, and it can involve. I have a few concerns about greening as well, because greening, I thought, was flower pots and pots and growing things, and rather than planting underwear in the ground. That's a conversation for another day, but actually it goes back to exactly what Councillor Campbell was saying, and that. So I think it's a great document, and I hope that we still do keep reviewing it on a regular basis, and it evolves and adapts and gets slicker, and things get added and things get taken away, because actually the other thing with it is all comes down to priorities. Anyway, the quick questions I had are actually up on the screen in front of you, that you've brought up there for Clark. So we've got the family support worker, and we've got the costings of 7,000. Well, that's fairly straightforward, because that matches exactly on the budget for costing that's was further in the slides. But I'm trying to work out the 58 and 42, because actually in the slides in front of me it's saying 18.5 and 19.5. Unless something else is lumped in there, i.e. does that include the the 16 to 24 employability as well?
Yes.
Because that's not listed, and the Warm Hubs Friday Night Football is.
No, so, sorry, it's a little bit confusing. The three there are notated for the 360, the 7,000 and the 400. The figures for approval budgeting process are the totals for that. So the totals for SAFE for approval in 26-27, the total for that area is 4640 or 11,000. The total for culturally focused is 104,000 because it includes the whopping great big Christmas event, and 99,500 local first. So they are a bit disingenuous, and for that I apologise, but they only relate to that line over there.
Yeah, so
that column for approval.
Total for local first is not just the family support worker; it also includes the employability as well. Because I say the other things that you've mentioned here are actually listed there. Where's the Heritage Project? 22.5 come in, please. Cultural focus. Yeah. So that goes in there with the Christmas event as well. Okay. Thank you.
I'm wondering how was best to play this now, in terms of decisions.
So there's two. Well, the £400 you've already resolved
We've approved
on.
that one, yeah.
The 7,000 and the £360 or 5,360 would defer to the end. And then the rest of it, I would suggest a proposal that is put into in-depth figures and crunched through the budget setting process that starts very soon.
Okay. Would anyone like to make that a proposal? Is there anything in there that's alarm bells for people? Is there anything ringing alarm bells in terms of the projects and ideas that have been suggested? Is there anything that people would say, absolutely that's a non-starter? Or is it, we're interested, we need to see final figures? Is that, I think that is where we're...
Yeah, I think all of them are very admirable. If we had endless pot of money, then we would just say yes, do them all. But yeah, I think to get some more figures on some of them, or a bit more rounded things, is a good idea.
Councillor Bicknell, you're next.
Broadly agree with Councillor O'Neill. The one that
Stop doing this.
I'm returning the compliment from yourself earlier. The one that would be ringing alarm bells for me on the affordability, given some of the other stuff in there, would be the Heritage Project at 22,500. For me, looking at it, if we couldn't afford all of it, that would be quite at the bottom of the pile, because I think there are some other things that are far more important than that. But as I said earlier, when I laid out my stall, it all comes down to affordability and costings.
Thank you. Councillor Clifton?
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, and I apologise if you said this already and I tuned out. For the funding this year, are we approving it with the additional £5,000 for the Friday Night Football, so that we're covered in case EAC doesn't fund it? So the total is actually
£5,360.
as in the total, so it's not 7,760, it's
12,000.
12,000. Okay.
Well,
I think
first
that
of all,
is
we're going to...
safest, but every effort will be made to secure that,
Absolutely.
or offset the cost that the 5,000 would have given us by using other partner organisations.
So taking those ones that we're looking for funding tonight out of the equation for now, I'll make a proposal that we are happy in principle with these projects, subject to the full costings coming and going through the budgeting process.
I'll second.
That is a seconder. Is that a
And
question or comment?
actually, with reference to Friday Night Football, for the 1 year, taking into account what Clark's just said, 1 year is taken separately, and then everything else that you've just said is as a sort of second proposal, pending full costings. But to get the Friday night football going for 1 year, it would be worth taking a vote on that, perhaps.
We have a meeting tomorrow morning where we have been given funding across 2 years. It may be awkward to actually sit in that meeting tomorrow morning and say, well, we've got to go ahead for 1 year only. It would be easier to say, I have funding. I've secured funding for this year and the rest will go in the budget. That isn't incorrect.
Let's cut the heritage project over 2 years.
Let's take those three out of it. The first proposal from me is that we, in principle, agree with this subject to the full costings, taking out for the moment the wall hub, the community support worker and the Friday night football. That's the proposal. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you.
What was that?
Everything else, bar the three we need to decide on tonight. To take forward, to be investigated, we're happy. That's the proposal. Is everyone clear on that proposal? You clear on the proposal?
I'm sure if we have all the financials, then in principle, but I need to see all the financials.
Well, and that's, we will, absolutely. So there was a seconder for that. All in favour of that one? That's everybody, thank you. That's agreed.
Write it down.
We've already done the warm spaces one. Should we take the Friday night football one next?
Please.
And you would like us to do it over the 2 years?
I would like you to allocate the funding that I'm asking for approval this evening. I would not like it to be expanded into any caveats or bumpers on it.
So just the 5,000?
I would like the approval that I've asked for this evening.
Which is?
£360 on the assumption that ELAC will fund 5,000 or £5,360 should the ELAC funding not be available.
Thank you. And it's coming from the strategic plan
Reserved.
Everybody clear on that?
So
I will propose that. Sorry?
We're proposing 360.
Or 5,360 if the ELAC grant doesn't come. Yeah. Okay, I'll propose that. Is there a seconder? Councillor Johnson. All those in favour of that one? Abstaining or against? Okay. Next one is, where are we up to? Family support.
Family support worker.
Is there a proposal for that one? Councillor O'Neill, your proposal is to fund the 7,000 out of the...
Yeah, absolutely. It occurred to me when we were looking at all these, I said all very admirable, if we had lots of money we'd just do them all. It's the only one really that caters for families, i.e. a whole structure of people, rather than just one son in a family or one old granny in a family. No grandma, but it is the only one that supports families as a whole, which is, I think, very important.
So the proposal is for the 7,000 for this year.
Splash out on that money, yeah.
And then subsequent years will be looked at as part of the budgeting process. So that's the proposal. Is everyone clear on the proposal? Is there a seconder for that one? Councillor Campbell. All those in favour of that one? That's carried. Is that all the decisions?
Thank you.
We should have actually extended the meeting by 3 minutes, so let's quickly, because we're at the end of our 2.5 hours. Date of the next meeting is a final item then to review the date of the next scheduled meeting of the 19th of November 2025, so that's the meeting closed at 9:33. Thank you.